Yes, good evening, or good morning, I should better say. We all share one clear goal, a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. That was the motto of the discussion today. So we gathered with a clear objective to address Ukraine's pressing financing needs for the next 2 years. And I'm very pleased to say we made it. We have secured an agreement that we can deliver on the financing needs for Ukraine for the next 2 years. As you know, the Commission had proposed 2 solutions, both legally sound, both technically feasible. On one hand, we proposed EU borrowing on the market, and on the other hand, we had developed the reparations loan. Very important was in our discussion that last week already on Friday, we had sent a very clear and strong political message by immobilizing the Russian assets in the European Union over the long term. So that message was very clear. And building on that, we today had then agreed to find a solution for the financing of Ukraine in the next 2 years. The member states have agreed to finance the Ukraine through EU borrowing on the capital markets for an amount of 90 billion euros for the next 2 years. We will do this by way of enhanced cooperation that is backed by the EU budget headroom and based on an unanimous agreement to amend the MFF. Similarly to the reparations loan, very important here, Ukraine would only need to pay back the loan once it receives reparations. Until then, the immobilized Russian assets will remain immobilized, and the Union reserves its right to make use of the cash balances to finance the loan. This is the solution we found together, and as discussed in the last weeks, financing Ukraine beyond 2027 will then be part of the next MFF discussion. The EU's next budget, so the next MFF, was also on the agenda. The Danish Presidency has done a remarkable work. Today it was mostly about architecture and about calendar. We need a budget that is faster, simpler and more flexible, and a budget that will ensure Europe's capacity to meet the demands of a world of crisis, as demonstrated again today for the financing of Ukraine. Finally, we agreed on the sense of urgency and the intense work ahead with the Cypriot presidency. We then moved on to the discussion of geoeconomics, and one part of this was a discussion about the Mercosur agreement. This evening we have achieved a breakthrough to pave the way for a successful completion of the Mercosur agreement in January. We need a few extra weeks to address some issues with member states, and we have reached out to our Mercosur partners and agreed to postpone slightly the signature. This deal is of crucial importance for Europe economically, diplomatically and geopolitically. It opens new trade and economic opportunities for all our member states. And with additional checks and safeguards, we've built in all necessary protections for our farmers and for our consumers. In a year dominated by news of rising tariffs and new trade restrictions, the positive impact of this pact matters not just for our 2 regions, but for the global economy. Finally, let me also join the chorus, dear Mette, praising the Danish Presidency. In just 6 months, you delivered impressive results. 41 files were concluded and negotiating mandates secured on 17 more. You ensured the EU's unwavering support for Ukraine with the adoption of the 18th and the 19th sanction package, as well as the swift agreement on the immobilization of the Russian assets last week. Together we made history with the agreement on Repower EU, our roadmap to full energy independence from Russia, and with the 2040 climate target. Thanks to your work on migration, we were able to effectively kickstart the implementation of the Pact for Migration and Asylum. notably with the progress on the return and safe countries of origin legislation, just agreed. And you also strengthened Europe's defence by securing a much-awaited agreement on the European Defence Industry Programme, EDIP, and the Defence Omnibus. And you made significant progress on simplification with agreement on several omnibuses, making life easier for companies across Europe. And last but not least, you successfully steered the initial work on the next EU budget. So you laid a very solid foundation for the next presidency to come, and I think the achievements that I've just described speak volumes about your leadership and your commitment to the European Union. Many thanks for that.